and happy Mother's Day. Lots of moms out there. It's a unique thing that I get to do, obviously share a message this morning, but the really cool thing is we are streaming live. Now, my mom should not be watching the live feed. She should actually be in church right now, probably just wrapping up singing, sitting down and listening to her pastor. But eventually she's going to watch this because she knows her son, and she's probably nervous about what exactly I'm going to share today about her. And so I'm going to look straight at the camera. I'm going to say, Mom, you deserve this. Okay, so we do want to we want to recognize moms today, but we also want to be mindful that for some individuals, Mother's Day is a sad day. We can't skirt around that. Our prayer and our hope is that you'll find comfort in the Lord. There's a number of different things, but today, for some, is a very happy day, very joyful day. For others, there's a little bit of sorrow involved in that, and we acknowledge that. I acknowledge that there are individuals in my life where today is not necessarily a happy occasion, and for that, we want to be mindful. So today's message is going to be about the home, and really we're going to focus in on kind of the mother's role in there. I've been blessed. I have some great moms in my life. You got my mother, my wife, and of course my mother-in-law, which my grandfather. One of my grandfather's favorite jokes is, "What's the difference between a mother-in-law and an in-law?" Or excuse me, an in-law and an outlaw. The outlaws are wanted, right? No, stop. Everyone who feels that way groaned for those that were sitting next to them. Everyone, this is hilarious. My grandfather loved that joke. I love that joke. It's totally not true. And I only say that in second service because Nancy's next door, so we'll just roll with that one. So moms are amazing creatures. Moms instantaneously transform. The moment they find out they're pregnant, they become a completely different person, a completely different individual, a gift from God. Just they're totally different, and they become almost superhuman. Now, I did some research. You do research around Mother's Day, you come to find out that there's a lot of statistics out there about moms, and I want to share some of them with you. What you're not going to hear from me today is how special a mother's role is, how incredible moms are, because this stuff you should already know. And if you're a mom, you know that. You're not going to tell anyone. You're just going to wait for that one day a year where we're going to acknowledge that in a homemade card. So mothers do a majority of the diaper changes. I don't know if you know that or not. Apparently, by a baby's second birthday, there are over 7,000 diaper changes. It says here that moms take 2 minutes and 5 seconds to change a diaper, and dads take 1 minute and 30 seconds to change a diaper. And then the mom redoes that diaper in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. A preschooler requires a mom's attention once every 4 minutes. And we all know what that sounds like, right? Mom, 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 mom. Now, laundry. Anyone do laundry? Anyone love to do laundry? No one raise their hand. That's good. They say 88% of laundry is done by moms. That's over 300 loads of laundry and 5,300 articles of clothing each year done by a mother. And depending on the size of your house, that you may look forward to that small load there. I feel like sometimes the washing machine in my house is just constantly on. I don't get it. I didn't turn it on, mind you. It's just magic. Stuff just shows up folded. Some quotes on moms. Cleaning up with children around is like shoveling during a blizzard. Arlene Benedict said to a child's ear, "Mother is magic in any language." Jill Churchill says there is no way to be a perfect mother and a million ways to be a good one. And then the great philosopher, the Golden Girls, says, "It's not easy being a mother. If it were easy, fathers would do it." So the mom plays a very, very, very special role in the household. I remember the story of a dad who invested into his son. He taught him how to play baseball, football, soccer. He took him fishing, hunting. He just worked with him and trained with him until he eventually got a college scholarship. And over time, he becomes a college star, and the news reporter goes up to him and shoves that microphone in his face, and the first thing that comes out of that kid's mouth is, Hi, Mom. So moms play a very special role. Dads know it. This is there are more cards sent on Mother's Day or around this Mother's Day than any other time during the year. There are more phone calls made on Mother's Day weekend than any other time during the year. So moms play a really big role. So I wanted to do a little research. What does a mom actually do? Like, I know I live with one and I've seen a couple, but what in the world do they actually do? So I looked online and I found at salary.com what's called the modern mom's jobs. And there's a list of 30 jobs that a mother does throughout the week. So let's see if you can identify with any of these. Deep breath. Executive housekeeper, executive chef, daycare teacher, facilities manager, network administrator, psychologist, janitor, taxi driver, laundry manager, chief executive officer. She also is a maintenance supervisor, a groundskeeper, interior designer, a logistics analyst, a plumber, a staff nurse, a personal shopper. She's also an athletic trainer, a photographer. She's a social media marketing manager. She's an academic advisor, a recreational therapist, a coach, a tailor, a tax accountant, a judge, a school teacher, a nutritionist, a computer operator, and an office administrator. That's about half the list, right, moms? They say that a stay-at-home mom works about 92 hours a week. And that if you were to figure out all these jobs, a stay-at-home mom is worth $143,000. So congratulations. I don't know where you're going to get that money from, but that's what you're worth. A working mom's salary, they actually say on top of what they earn is $90,000 per year. So moms have a lot going on in their life. So John Gray is quoted as saying, "The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world." And it directly attributing to the power of a mother in the household. Today we're going to look at 6 different points, what I believe is God's blueprint for building a Christian home. And this applies to everyone. We're going to highlight moms today, but this applies to anyone who's building a home with children around. Essentially, we're looking at how to raise a child in the ways of Christ. The first thing we look at is a Christian home should be a filling station. And by filling station, I mean it should be a place where you can go get checked, refueled, and basically where their cup of love is just totally filled. We look at the story of Hannah and Samuel, and it's worth noting that Hannah prayed and prayed for a son. If you dive into the story, Elkanah had 2 wives, and Hannah was barren. She had no children, and his other wife had a bunch of children, and his other wife used to tease Hannah all the time. So it became a point of misery for her. But Hannah had something that the other wife didn't, and that's God. And she went and petitioned to God, and you look at 1 Samuel 1:11, it says she vowed a vow and said, "O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me, and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head." And she was in such anguish and passion in this prayer that Eli, the priest, thought that she was drunk. There was so much going into this prayer. She was crying out to God for this son who she was going to turn over to God. And we find, as you continue to read through the story, read through the parts, she ended up conceiving a son. And in 1 Samuel 1:20 it says, "In due time Hannah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Samuel, for she said, I have asked for him from the Lord." And continuing on, the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer the Lord the yearly sacrifice and to pay his vow, but Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, "As soon as a child is weaned, I will bring him so that he may appear in the presence of the Lord and dwell there forever." So we're talking about in these days, anywhere from 2 to 4 years, we're assuming a little bit more than 3 years for Samuel to be weaned. Elkanah, her husband, said to her, "Do what seems best to you. Wait until you've weaned him. Only may the Lord establish his word." So you see a partnership. Elkanah knew what was going on in this scenario. He knew what was going to take place with his son. And verse 24 says, when she weaned him, she took him up with her, along with 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, a skin of wine, and she brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh, and the child was young. Then they slaughtered the bull, and they brought the child to Eli. And she said, "O my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who is standing here in your presence praying to the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition that I made to him. Therefore I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is lent to the Lord." And he worshiped the Lord there. How much greater love can a mother or a father have for their children than to commit them to the service of the Lord? And I can only imagine what was going on in that household. He's young. I mean, he's 3-4 years old max. But I'm sure every day, every night, she's telling him, "You are the Lord's. You are the Lord's. The Lord gave me to you. You are going to serve him. You're going to do wonderful things." And she knows he's going to do great things for the Lord, because why else would the Lord give him to her? So she's building in and she's pouring into life, even at such a young age. We work in our children's ministry, even with the little kids. We want them surrounded with music. We want to pour life into them, pour words of Christ into them, because even at a young age, they can absorb these things. The house was full of love. Now, the cool thing about moms is the love doesn't stay inside the house, right? It tends to pour out. And it's not just the house, it's not just the temple, but it tends to get out there. And quite frankly, moms don't care what other people think about their love for their child. I did a little thing this week. I managed to talk to my siblings. I called my brother-in-law, my sister, my younger brother Sean, my other brother Seth, and then I called my dad. There's a certain trait that my mother has, a certain thing that she used to do during our basketball games. And if you listen, and this is just a phone interview I had with them, if you listen to it, you'll hear, I didn't prep them at all. I just called them and asked them a question. You'll hear when they know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is what my mom became famous in the area for. Go ahead, play that.
Good, Sam. How are you?
Doing well. Do you remember my mom during basketball games?
Sure. Yeah, I think so.
Do you by chance happen to remember what she would do anytime one of her kids scored?
Yeah, I think one of those moments comes to mind.
Do you happen? Can you tell me or show me or let me hear what she would do?
Woohoo! Yeah.
Hey, sissy, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing all right. Hey, we're talking about moms. Do you remember mom when she would come to our basketball games?
Yeah.
Do you remember what she would do when one of us would score?
Yeah, she'd scream.
Do you know what that sounded like?
Woohoo!
I think it had a little more gusto. Can you give me more gusto?
Woohoo!
That was it. Was anyone else in the room making that sound at that time?
No.
Yeah. It was very clear which kid scored. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was right. Hey, Sean, do you remember Mom would come to our basketball games?
Yes, she would. She would make herself known.
Do you remember what Mom would do whenever one of us would score?
Yahoo!
And when she would do that, what was so special about it?
You knew right where she was.
And would she do that for anyone else?
No,
Who would she do it for?
just us.
Just us. Hey, Seth. Hey, you remember when Mom used to come to our basketball games?
Oh yeah, obviously, absolutely.
Do you remember that sound she'd make after you score?
Oh, it's an unforgettable sound. I would never forget that.
What was it like?
It was something like.
And she was. Would you say she was the only one that was making that sound?
I would say she was the only person who would ever make that sound.
Hi, Dad. I want to ask you a couple questions about Mom.
Okay.
Remember in the day, Mom would come to our basketball games.
Yep.
And our mother became famous for a certain act that she would do. Do you remember what that was?
Nice little war hoop. Oh, basically whenever any one of her kids did something, whatever almost. It was scoring points or a good pass, whatever, that it resulted in something good.
Now, do you remember what this sounded like?
Well, I can't mimic it because I'm no good at it, but it was a high, shrill yes or a scream yahoo.
And why did she do that?
She was supporting her kids. I mean, that was just natural for her. Got her excited to see her kids do well.
Now, what was your war cry?
I didn't really have a war cry. I just yell at the refs.
So, what sound did my mom make after one of her kids would score? Right. And in my high school, I didn't really mature as a basketball player until after high school, but I went to a high school that was very popular. I did play, and I would score 7-8 points a game, something like that. That's about 4 war cries from my mom. And I knew it was going to happen. The whole building is filled. There's 200-300 people in there, and every time I scored, I heard one person. And that was just and I'll tell you, I think there was one time I was embarrassed. One time, that's when I was younger playing, and it was early. I didn't quite understand my mom. Still don't. But she I'm like, who is that? And I scored again, and she did it again, and I started to realize. And so the first time I was embarrassed. After that, it did nothing but just fill me with love and confidence. Now, I got better at basketball when I got into college. I have records to prove it. That's a whole nother sermon. But my mom, it took a couple years for her to be able to come out and watch one of my basketball games. Now, I knew what my mom would do when I would score. So when she came to watch the game, what was I trying to do? Every time I touched the ball, I was shooting. I did whatever I could so I could hear my mom's war cry in front of 200-300 college students. There was one person I heard above all. And I had a very good game that game because I remember meeting with my mom afterwards, and she's like, I don't think I can do that for every game. She literally lost her voice in the process. And it was one of my favorite things. I tried so hard to try to get that from my mom. My mom did not care who heard. She didn't care. That's what moms are. You come into my house, you're going to hear my children, you're going to hear them referred to as Honey Bunny or Cutie Snooty Booty. If it wasn't for me, my children would not know what their actual God-given names were. So these things are just thrown out there all the time. I have taken on, he's not here, so don't embarrass him later, but Javen is known as Cutie Snooty Booty. I actually refer to him as Cutie Tootie Booty, and I'll let you guys figure out why I've manipulated that one a little bit. But the love of my mom drove me in these games. And that is just an outpouring. So the house, a home, a Christian home, should be a filling station for a child. They should feel that love, and it should pour out of the home. Proverbs 22:6, you have to use this verse on Father's Day and Mother's Day, but it should be familiar to everyone. So look, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. So a Christian home should be a filling station, and a Christian home should be a storm shelter, because a kid needs a place to go where they feel not only love, but they feel secure. And I don't know if you guys have watched TV over the last, 10 years, see what's going on in this world. The home needs to be a safe place for a child. Proverbs 14:26 says, in the fear of the Lord, one has strong confidence, and his children will have refuge. Children want to know there's a place where they can be safe and have peace from the storms of life. There's a little 4- and 6-year-old, they went out and they wanted to buy their mom's flowers with their own money. And they buy this scraggly little mix, and they get home to mom and say, Mom, we wanted to buy you this big, beautiful flowers, but it was too expensive. And it had a beautiful sign on it that said, rest in peace. Because you're always asking for peace and a little bit of rest. In Isaiah 32, we read, it's a foreshadowing of what Christ's reign is going to look like. And in verse 16 it says, then justice will dwell in the wilderness, and righteousness abide in the fruitful field. And the effect of righteousness will be peace. And the result of righteousness, quietness and trust forever. Shouldn't our homes reflect that righteousness? Shouldn't our homes reflect that peace? Now, I know a lot of times when you bring a newborn home, they tell you, look, the baby is going to respond to your stress, right? And moms all know that. And the more stressful you are, the more whiny and the more tears come out of that little thing. And the baby doesn't stop. The child does not stop reflecting the stress of the home. Our home should be a secure place, a comforting place for children. So our home is a filling station full of love. It's a storm shelter away from the storms of life. And the Christian home should also be an emergency room, a trauma center for all like the non-medical emergencies of life. Every child's going to be wounded sooner or later. Every kid's going to have their heart broken. Everyone is going to be called names. They're going to be teased. They need someone to run to. You just think of it. Any little kid, they fall down, they skin their knee. What's the first thing out of their mouth? Mom! It doesn't matter how old they are, they cry out. That's the first thing they cry out to. Psalm 46:1 says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. We need a Christian home that the kids can turn to, godly parents, someone who can help them through these issues in a godly way. A mother emergency room is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It does not turn off. I remember when my son was, when Tatten was really young, and I said, you know what I'm going to do, because Joyce, she was getting tired, she was getting worn out, I don't know, something about taking care of the kid all night long. So I said, look, tonight I got him. You sleep, I'll take care of him. It's my gift to you. You guys can pat me on the back later. So we get through, we start the night, and I'm geared up. I'm ready. I'm sleeping on the side of the bed that's closest to him. I'm ready to go. If I hear a whimper, I'm going to jump up at him. Well, 8.5 hours later, I wake up. I'm like, man, he slept through the whole night. What are the chances that the one night I get to take care of him, I was like, Lord, this is a gift. This is a blessing from you. My son has slept through the night. Obviously, I am doing something right. And I turn over, and he's lying next to my wife, and she's got bags under her eyes, and her hair, don't tell her, his hair is all crazy. Apparently, she heard him, and I didn't. Moms, they just know these things. They just hear these things. She couldn't take the night off. Moms don't take the night off. Psalm 23, 3-4. This is, everyone knows Psalm 23. Our home should reflect this. Our home should be an example of this peace. It says, He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And I know in my own life, my mom has walked me through a lot of heartbreak. I know I've seen my wife do it. I've seen other moms do it. Moms help out with those pains that the doctor can't deal with. Our home should be a reflection of this. Our home should be a comfort, the fear no evil line. So we're a filling station. A Christian home should be a storm shelter. A Christian home should be an emergency room. And the Christian home should be a schoolhouse. I was able to find a few things, and some of you guys might recognize this. Feel free to jump in as soon as you know what's happening. But a mom is an incredible teacher. In fact, moms do a great job of teaching logic. If everyone else jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? Moms know a lot about medicine. So if you don't stop making that face, it's going to stay that way. You guys can speak up. Husbands, I know you don't want to say anything too loud. Moms know how to become an adult. So if you don't eat your vegetables, you'll never grow up. Moms know a lot about zoology. This room is a pigsty. They know about genetics. So you are just like your father. Moms know about your roots. Do you think you were born in a barn? You guys can get stars. Like, keep your own points if you can finish this out. Moms also know about the wisdom of age. That when you get to be my age, you'll understand. They know all about foresight, too. It says, make sure you wear clean underwear in case you get in an accident. One of my favorite things is Bill Cosby talks about this. He said, look, if I'm in an accident, clean underwear is the least of my concerns. And quite frankly, if I'm in an accident, I will not have clean underwear. Moms do a great job of teaching patience. Just wait till your father gets home. Moms know all about justice. One day you will have kids, and I hope they turn out just like you. Moms also know about religion. You better pray that comes out of the carpet. Moms know how to take a firm stand. Because I said so. Moms also know a lot about stamina. You'll sit here until all your vegetables are gone. Moms teach a lot about poverty. There are starving children in Africa who would love to have this meal. They know about weather. It says it looks like a tornado swept through your room. They know a little bit about irony. Keep crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And then the one every mom has used, the circle of life. I brought you into this world, take you out. Such love, right? Such love. Moms teach so much. So we know this in school they're going to learn about math, reading, writing, science. They're going to learn about all these things. But in the home is where a child should learn about life, The home is where a child should learn about morals, how to be an adult, how to treat people with respect. Proverbs 6:20 says, "My son, keep your father's commandment and forsake not your mother's teaching. Bind them on your heart always, tie them around your neck. When you walk, they will lead you. When you lie down, they will watch over you. And when you awake, they will talk with you. For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching a light, and the reproofs of discipline are the way of life." Children need to be taught how to deal with life, and they need to be taught this in a Christian home. They need to be taught how to get along with people, how to be a decent and honest person. They need to learn about values. They need to know about the morals that come from serving and chasing after Christ. They need to know that the most important things in life are not taught in the classroom, that they're taught at home. In Proverbs 22:6, "Train up a child the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it." The story goes, a mother of 6, she's in the house, and she's just having one of those days. Anyone have one of those days? 6 kids, she's probably had a lot of them. So she's walking around the house, and her 4-year-old is just constantly at her side, constantly bumping into her. Every time she stops and turns around, finally she stops and says, "Johnny, why do you keep following me? Why are you so close?" It says, "In Sunday school, we were told to follow in Jesus' footsteps. But I don't see him, so I'm following you." This is the story of our life. As in Christian homes, sometimes we are the Jesus that they see. We need to be a reflection of that. We should be teaching them and showing them Christ in the way we act. And if they can't see him, they should see him in us. So Christian home is a filling station. It should be a storm shelter. It should be an emergency room. It should be a schoolhouse. And it should be a Dave & Buster's. Dave & Buster's motto is eat, drink, play, and watch sports all under one roof. This sounds like my house. I love to eat, I love my Pepsi, and I will play all day long if I can get away with it. And then, of course, there's always ESPN. So this is my motto. But look, a child should not have to look elsewhere for fun, right? The house should be fun. And your fun might not be my fun, but there should be opportunities to just enjoy the presence of each other. You might not know this about me and my house, but laughter is one of our main food groups. Like, it is an essential part of our house. We like to laugh with each other. We like to laugh at each other. And the bottom line is we are together enjoying each other's presence. Ecclesiastes 5:18 says, "Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil. This is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart." In 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, "So whether you eat or drink, whatever you do, do all to the glory of God." I have not seen a person won over to Christ by Mr. Grumpy Pants. No one ever looks at someone miserable and says, "Man, I have got to get me some of that." So why would we treat Christ, or why would we make our home a miserable place for a child to be? It should be fun. Simple little things. And if you can be like Dave & Buster's and get a huge giant screen and lots of video games, by all means get them. I'll be there. You don't even have to invite me, I'll just show up. Now, I'm aware that not all moments in the house are conducive to laughter. But the bottom line is a child should be able to let their hair down at home. So Christian home is a filling station, it's a storm shelter, should be an emergency room, should be a schoolhouse, should be a Dave & Buster's. The bottom line, a Christian home must be a worship center. A child should not have to wait till Sunday to hear about Christ. A child should not have to wait to Sunday to sing to his Lord. Our home should be holy ground. Their children should know that God is real because he is real in the lives of their parents. They should see this and understand this. In 2 Timothy 1, Paul writes to Timothy, and he understands the lineage and the power of a mother. He says, "Look, I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I am sure dwells in you as well." You see, this lineage of faithful servanthood is passed through the moms. Now, we know if you continue to study and you look, you know Timothy's dad was not a believer. So Paul literally is building on the foundation that Timothy's mother had laid for him. And he's aware of that, and he's recognizing that. Mothers have a responsibility to pass on to the children their faith. You can see the importance of generations. I am unapologetic in my lineage. I have been blessed on both sides of the family to come from very strong Christian home. My parents each grew up in very strong Christian homes. My grandfathers were strong men of God. One was a pastor for many, many years. The other one just was a full-time farmer and still managed to serve in his church. Just crazy. But behind them were very strong, God-fearing women. And both my grandfathers have passed away over the last couple of years, but I still have my grandparents. And I've gotten letters from my grandma, and there's a passion for Christ in them. And I've been blessed to be raised in a very strong Christian home. My parents did well to lay a strong foundation. I'll brag on my mom a little bit. She has 4 kids, an incredibly handsome, talented older son, and then she had 3 others. But each one of these kids, out of that, she has 2 pastors. Her younger son is a worship leader at his church and does far more than just stand up and sing. And then her daughter works in the children's ministry at her church, and she is just loved at that church. Now, she found a godly man to marry who's working on his master's in divinity. My younger brother found a piano-playing wife who loves God, and they're serving together. My other brother lives in Chicago, and his wife loves God, and they're serving together. And then, of course, Joyce found me, and so we're loving each other and serving God together. They all came from lineage, from families of solid believers, and they're passing this on to their children. I wanted to show the picture. I wanted to see this legacy that my mom is leaving, that she has in the family. She has, 14, 15 grandchildren. I really don't have a clue how many there are, but they're all active in the church. They're all there. So, but my mom would tell you right away, it's not on her, it's on the God that she serves. And that kind of trickled down. And that's not to say that if you follow this pattern that every kid's going to go, because eventually everyone has to make their own choice, right? There are children, but if we can lay the foundation, if you can lay a foundation in home, have something to build on, something for them to fall back on. Rose Kennedy, the mother to John F. Kennedy, was quoted in her book saying, "Whenever I held my newborn babe in my arms, I used to think that what I did and what I said to him would have an influence not only on him, but on everyone he meets. Not for a day or a year, but for all time and for eternity. What a challenge, what a joy." Our homes should be a worship center for Christ, where Christ is not just spoken of, but he's actually lived out. Where the name of Jesus is not confined to stories or Sunday school or church, but where the name of Jesus is a revered name, is a name that is feared, that we are chasing. We are walking in the steps of Jesus because our child is walking right behind us. Our home should be a place where the love of Christ is shown, reflected, and expected. One of the great Mother's Day quotes came from a successful businessman. He said, "I'm a self-made man, but the blueprints came from my mother." And the mothers get their blueprint from the architect, who is God. So Christian home is a filling station where we fill up with love, get all the tune-ups we need from time to time. It's a storm shelter, a secure fortress. It's an emergency room which is always open to take care of our needs. It's a schoolhouse teaching about life, growing up with manners, morality. It's a Dave & Buster's, creating an environment of joy and togetherness. And finally, it is a worship center where spirituality is not taught, but is seen in the lives of parents, where God is a priority. Psalm 127:1 says, "Unless the Lord builds a house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain." And I understand we can't put together a perfect home. We're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. That's all right. I've made one once before, and I survived. But I also know many of you are trying to rebuild your home in this way, and you might need help. You can get all the blueprints you want, but if you don't know how to turn that into a building, what good is it? I'll let you know that myself, Pastor Sal, Pastor Bob, and any of the elders are around to help you if you need help in steps on how to establish this home. And listen, just because you're a grandparent, you're empty nester, you're not done. The children, a mother's children are always in her eyes a child. And she will always take care of them that way. Let's pray. Father God, we love you and we thank you for moms and what they represent, the special gift and blessing that you've given to them and the reflection of your love that they are in the house. How great a gift is a mother to be able to show your love to us. God, we honor them this morning. We look at the house and the families, and I pray that as we move forward, we continue to build our homes that would be pleasing to you, that our children would chase after you, God. Is your great holy name we pray. Amen. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you, moms, so much. Enjoy the dinner that you've earned this one day out of 365.